Files on the John F. Kennedy case actually turned out to be declassified files on the activities of the CIA. Manipulations of the US president, coup d'etat, invasions of other states. There are a lot of things in the papers, and in the next couple of minutes, we will continue to talk about funny and not very secret documents in the case of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Well, from you, as always, we are waiting for likes and comments about whether it is worth continuing the rubric. We'll start with just a funny story about how the CIA accidentally made an heir to the King of Jordan. Hussein ibn Talal arrived in the United States in the spring of 1959 year and left an item on the wish list, called a women's company. To provide it, the CIA turned to Robert Mayhew, a very colorful character. Suffice it to say that the Mayhew Detective Agency became the prototype of Tom Cruise's organization in the Mission Impossible film series. Mayhew served in the FBI and then opened a detective agency that dealt with tasks at literally any level, from eliminating foreign leaders to actually helping the CIA with sensitive tasks, like finding a girlfriend for the King of Jordan. Mayhew did this regularly, and, if possible, also tried to get secret information from world leaders through the ladies. For Hussein, Robert found a young actress Susan Cabot and rented a whole house in New York with CIA money. And then the most interesting thing, because shortly after Susan's son was born, no one recognized him, and when Cabot married an American, he adopted the child. But by a strange coincidence, the actress received a personal payment of $1,500 from the excellent treasurer of the King of Jordan until the end of her life. The money at that time was gigantic. For example, it was possible to take a brand new Ford Mustang for them. Well, Robert Mayhew himself, exactly a year after the story with the King of Jordan, again collaborated with the CIA. This time, he received an order to kill Fidel Castro. As soon as the CIA did not try, starting from poisoned cigars and ending with a diving suit infected with tuberculosis. But time after time, the attempts failed. Actually, Mayhew also failed his impossible mission. But his story was declassified, along with the documents on the assassination of John F. Kennedy, just because the CIA came to Mayhew. And on the elimination of objectionable. In both the new and old batches of documents, no connection has been found between Robert and the Kennedy assassination, as however from the USSR. But there is a very interesting fresh document telling how the USSR reacted to the assassination of the US president. In a note dated December 1, 1963, the head of the FBI, Edgar Hoover, writes that in the USSR the news about the Kennedy assassination caused a shock. Hoover refers to an extremely reliable agent who worked in the highest circles of the Union and says that the members of the Communist Party were in shock, gathered for emergency meetings, and constantly discussed whether the assassination of Kennedy was an attempted coup in the United States, so that the ultra-right would come to power, which, in turn, will openly invade Cuba and start World War III. The same paper claims that, according to the USSR, then Vice President Lyndon Johnson was involved in the Kennedy assassination. Lee Harvey Oswald was at most a small fry, since the KGB at one time recognized him as crazy and unfit for work. Another document dated March 11, 1964, once again completely refutes the possible trace of the USSR in the Kennedy assassination. CIA agent George Lesnick, who worked in the KGB, reports to the United States that the KGB, despite observing Lee Harvey Oswald, never really engaged in its development. But the CIA was very cheerfully engaged in the development of assets in the USSR. The documents revealed not the best side of the CHI's work, because it was revealed that the US agency poisoned cows in the GER, poisoned baby milk in the countries of the social bloc, and directly supported the former Nazis. This is not news in principle. Even on the basis of old declassified documents, historian William Bloom wrote a book where he said that through the Henry Ford Foundation, the United States, in order to expose the communists in a bad light, financed the former Nazis of Germany, who supported armed uprisings, killed communists, poisoned cows, and undermined civilian infrastructure. Yes, and the milk was poisoned, too, and this is generally a separate CIA fad. After all, they also added cement to milk in Cuba, which they sent to schools in order to expose the ruling party in a bad light. And there was also the CHI's participation in the Hungarian Revolution of 1956 year. Hungary took part in the Second World War on the side of Germany, being governed by a puppet regime. After the 44th year, the pro-Soviet regime of the Debrecen government began to compete with him, which became the only one. Following the results of the war, there were many nuances, but in 1956 an uprising was raised against the Soviet regime, and the CHI's role in it was only indirect information, but with a new batch of declassified documents. There are more and more of them. First of all, the CIA in 1963 mentions meetings at which it supervised fighters with the Cuban and Hungarian regimes. Whole meetings were arranged with instructions on insurrection and partisan activities. Secondly, the CIA directly united the anti-Cuban and anti-Hungarian rebels into one department and dealt with them simultaneously. And thirdly, there is a document of the CHI's internal investigation of April 20th of the 90s. In it, the department is trying to figure out whether the radio controlled by it on the territory of Europe has become a catalyst for the Hungarian uprising. The judge claims that on the radio, which was engaged in the activities of the CIA, there was constant information that if there was an uprising in Hungary, Western countries would intervene and help. And in this way, the CIA radio could inspire people with false hopes and push them to revolt. The internal investigation of the CIA did not find provocative materials on the radio, but admitted that it broadcast patriotic Hungarian slogans and statements of revolutionaries, and also hinted at possible US assistance during the revolution. The CIA refers to the fact that there were no direct promises, but this is verbal sophistry. The messages were simply put together in such a way that the protesters had the idea of Western help in their heads, although no one promised anything. And even the CIA does not argue with this, nor does it argue with the fact that the failure in the Bay of Pigs forced the United States to detach itself from Fidel Castro. In the document on the meeting of the CIA and the intelligence of the US president, dated December 7, 1962, while Kennedy was still alive, both sides agree that, quote, Fidel Castro should be removed from office. The CIA demanded an increase in the budget for the meeting, but received a refusal from Kennedy's team. Kennedy's team then asked if Operation Mongoose was still active, to which the CIA replied in the affirmative. Operation Mongoose is a secret CIA project to remove the communists of Cuba from power. It was launched under President Eisenhower, but now it is known for sure that the project continued to work under John F. Kennedy. Although John McCone, Kennedy's director of intelligence, criticized the CIA and demanded to reduce the scale of activities. So, at the meeting, Kennedy's representative told the CIA that the actions were fraught with another confrontation with the USSR, which no one would like. Then the document ends in a strange way, but again, it gives the impression of tangible disagreements between the Kennedy administration and the work of the CIA, which in light of the assassination of the president is not a very good sign for the CIA. Another area of disagreement between the intelligence officers and the president is Israel. At that time, he was actively trying to acquire nuclear weapons, and here John F. Kennedy was strongly opposed. With the help of France, Israel built a reactor in Dimona, on paper for the study of a peaceful atom, but in the 60s. The CIA wrote that the capacity and design of the plant are suitable for creating weapons-grade plutonium, and in general, the devil knows what is going on there on the lower floors. In 1963, John F. Kennedy put pressure on Israel and forced the country to regular visits of inspections. And it seems that nothing was found. But then the real mysticism. A document dated January 13, 67, shows that since 1953, the head of CIA counterintelligence, James Angleton, was given the right to work together on espionage tasks with Israeli intelligence. And later all data on such projects was instructed to strictly classify or even destroy. So strictly that even in the new batch of declassified documents, there is almost nothing related to this. Then it's even more interesting, because one of the Israeli employees who worked with the CIA, Zalman Shapiro, kind of helped steal 93 kilograms of enriched uranium and smuggle them from the United States to Israel, which the FBI knew about and investigated Shapiro about it back in 1965. But did the CIA itself investigate? Many people have questions here, because a real diamond was found in the new documents. This is one of the most edited files in all 80,000 documents on the John F. Kennedy case. And this, suddenly, is a 113-page interview with the very head of CIA counterintelligence, James Angleton, to the Church Committee. It has been published before, but with a huge number of edits. Now there are no edits, and it has been revealed that almost all of them in the past related to Israel. Angleton was interrogated on the topic of who, in his opinion, could transfer technology to create nuclear weapons to Israel. Angleton, under oath, denied the facts of direct transfer of technology to Israel by the CIA, but then said that Israel had received information from the United States through intermediaries. Angleton did not answer directly, but made it clear that it could be transmitted by scientists, journalists, and other Americans familiar with the issue. And most importantly, Angleton said that he personally communicated with Israeli officials about weapons-grade plutonium, although he did not transfer it. Well, the sweet head of the CIA counterintelligence confirms that President Kennedy and the US administration had no idea about what was happening. Although the CIA found out how Kennedy does not want Israel to get nuclear weapons, Angleton focuses on this, demanding that the conversation remain secret because there are gigantic consequences. Therefore, in all previous editions, the document was edited thousands of times. He does not give any direct evidence, But again, there was another point where the interests of Kennedy and the special services diverged. Moreover, we are talking about the special services of another country in general. The very fact that these documents are in the case of the Kennedy assassination, as it were, hints that during the investigation, the version of the possible liquidation of the president was also investigated because of his position on nuclear weapons. And although there is nothing clear in the papers, supporters of this theory have new arguments. But of course, it is not worth making far-reaching conclusions. There are so many papers that if you look at them, trying to find one thing that emphasizes a specific hypothesis, it will definitely be found. For now, it's easier to go by the exclusion method. And it's funny that the first suspect who is definitely not guilty is the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So far, there are no even half hints at the participation of either the KGB or other organizations. Rather, on the contrary, it is directly denied by both the CIA and the FBI. And the rest of the assumptions still require evidence that lies somewhere in thousands of documents that have not yet been studied. We will share them with you as we explore. Well, for now we have everything. See you again, friends.